Long before Lawrenceburg became a crossroads of Kentucky bourbon, one man shaped its identity more than anyone else, Judge William Harrison McBrayer. His distillery, Cedar Brook, didn't just make whiskey, it helped define what Kentucky bourbon could be. In the 1800s, McBrayer's whiskey wasn't just respected, it stood shoulder to shoulder with the most celebrated spirits in the world.
So in 1870, between McBrayer and Old Crow, they were known as making the best whiskey in Kentucky.
Cedar Brook became more than a brand, it became a dynasty.
They had a huge impact on the bourbon industry. He actually had a cousin, John McBrayer, John H. McBrayer, his second cousin, who had a distillery there in Lawrenceburg. And then he had later purchased a distillery in New Market, Kentucky in about 1870, which actually became known as the Old McBrayer Distillery. He was involved in several different distilleries around, but the McBrayer name was known as almost a dynasty around the community in the bourbon industry.
When McBrayer expanded Cedar Brook in 1880, the distillery entered a new era, one that put Lawrenceburg on the world map.
In 1880, Judge McBrayer decided to expand. He built his new distillery here in this bottom. Part of the original distillery foundations here. There's also one right back here. At that time, he was doing 800 barrels a day. It was, in 1873, it won a gold medal in Venice, and also in Philadelphia, the Continental in 1876. So it was he went from just a small distillery to a name brand worldwide.
McBrayer's bourbon crossed oceans, earning praise from royalty and turning European tastes from Scotch to Kentucky whiskey.
He was known for having the best known brand in the world. They say he turned the crown heads in Europe from Scotch to Kentucky whiskey.
But McBrayer's influence reached far beyond whiskey. He helped build Lawrenceburg into a connected, thriving community.
Towards the end of his life, W.H., he was real involved in the rail line, putting the rail line through Anderson County. It was a big deal. It was a big move to industrialize the community and help bring jobs and prosperity to Lawrenceburg. So he actually donated some of the land for the rail line to come through where his distillery was, which was a big deal in the late 1800s.
The railroad came in 1888. Unfortunately, the judge died that same year, but not before he got to see his dream come true with the railroad. Actually, there was a very highly decorated ceremony with the locomotives. They run them from Louisville to Lexington to Danville with draped over their trains and engines in memorial for Judge McBrayer. He was a very legendary man. Anderson County would not be what it is today if it wasn't for Judge McBrayer.
After McBrayer's death, Cedar Brook entered an uncertain chapter, one shaped by legal battles, family decisions, and the fight to preserve his name.
When W.H. passed away, he had said in his will that he wanted his grandchildren to have the distillery, but he wanted his name stricken from the distillery 3 years after his death, which was a big deal. And so 3 years later, D.L. Moore, who was running the distillery, actually had to sue the estate, which was his wife at the time, to continue to use the name McBrayer with the distillery.
A century after Cedar Brook faded, the McBrayer legacy found new life, not through corporations or collectors, but through family.
McBrayer was the third generation there in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. So here we are today, part of the legacy of trying to bring the bourbon forward.
He had gone down this rabbit hole in doing this research, and what he learned about W.H. McBrayer and the McBrayers having a bourbon brand, and that he was going to bring it back, and we didn't really know how that was going to transpire at the time.
I got obsessed with the story, and so I was able to trace the brands, found out that the brand survived up to the 1980s, and really wanted to retell the story of who W.H. McBrayer was to the bourbon community.
I consider myself a McBrayer, and our children are McBrayers. I've been around the McBrayers since I was 20 years old, right? And so they're my family too. And so it really means a lot to be able to support Bill and his dad in bringing the family name and the history forward for this next generation.
Bill called me up one day and said, "When are you retiring?" And said, "We're going to be in the bourbon business," and he has the trademarks. And I told him at that time, well, if I remember right, you didn't do very well in chemistry in school, and neither did I, and we didn't know anything about making bourbon. But he said, all I know is H2O is water, and he said, we're going to make brown water, and that's what we're going to do.
From a small frontier distillery to a world-renowned whiskey to a modern revival driven by passion and family, the McBrayer legacy still echoes through Lawrenceburg.
Here we are, 10 years later, and it's been fun, and it's been being able to work with my son, and it's been very enjoyable for this journey that we're on.
And this is just one chapter in a much bigger story. So stay tuned for more.